So, welcome to the adult years. And believe it or not, language is continuing to grow. So, the vocabulary for this week is on this page. And let's talk about executive functioning. So, as a child develops learning language through the school years, executive functioning is happening ongoing. But really, it's not going to be a process that is fully completed until well into the mid or late 20s of an individual. So, what is executive functioning? It is your ability to pay attention. It's your ability to demonstrate self-control. It's your ability to inhibit behavior, so those thoughts in your head that you don't say out loud. It's your ability to be flexible in your thinking. It's ability to start a project and finish it. It's your ability to have selective attention, so you can pay attention to people like in a dinner party and you're all sitting there together talking versus paying attention to some noise outside. It is the ability to process information. So how quickly you learn information and how quickly you can listen to something and go, yep, okay, got it, good, and then you can do it yourself. It's how well you store information into your memory, in your working memory. In other words, holding things that you have to do something with right now. There are some discussions about what the true definition is of executive functioning, but this is the piece that we're going to look at in language growth in the adult, because how we use language for this purpose of executive functioning is one of the things that's going to continue to grow into adulthood. There are many incidences now. If you think about this, the teenager growing up, right? That while we say they're an adult at 18, the child you have at 18 is not the same child that we see at 25, and the reason for that is the brain is not fully developed until the mid or late 20s. And so that's where you see, what do you see as the difference between that late teenager and the child in their 20s is this ongoing brain development, this ongoing growth of executive functioning. It's in their frontal lobe is where this is processed, and it's where we see this growth happening. So while the definitions are debated, we can agree, and most of the definitions will agree, that there are three core components to executive functioning, and those are working memory, cognitive flexibility, and inhibition. There are sub-skills of executive functioning, and you see them on the board here: planning, organizing, inhibition, emotional control, initiation, self-monitoring, shift, and working memory. And so executive functioning allows us to pay attention to a lecture like this, to organize, plan, and prioritize. That can be for a vacation, or it can be for getting your assignments done, or for planning a business luncheon or a presentation at work. It allows you to be able to start tasks and complete them, get them finished. It helps you take perspective and have flexibility of thought so that you can hear the positives of a point of view and understand the negatives, and you can hear an opposing point of view and also hear the positives and negatives in that. It helps you regulate your emotions, so knowing that you don't cry at work, at least hopefully there's nothing happening that would make you do that, that you don't share your innermost feelings with strangers, those abilities to inhibit your actions and thoughts, that you don't overshare intimate details of your life with strangers. That's inhibition. Not saying the quiet voices in your head, again, inhibition, which is an executive function. So I'm going to flip it back here just really quick and go back to this slide where we talk about the 8 sub-skills. So I'm sure all of you can probably think of someone in your life who, and perhaps yourself, who has good, strong skills in these areas. And then you might think of someone who maybe struggles in these areas. Um, when we see deficits in these areas in children who are teenagers or even younger adolescents, you know, the junior high child who's trying to develop these skills. We as SLPs, SLPAs can help provide them some instruction on how to plan and organize and self-monitor so that we can help in the development of these sub-skill areas of executive functioning. Um, you will see a natural progression over time between those adolescent years and the young 20s in the development of things. And part of it's life experience, part of it's brain development, and part of it is talking through and understanding the social rules that are also impacted by these particular skill sets. Let's talk about working memory in particular, because that's one that some people have a little bit of trouble with. We have short-term memory, we have long-term memory, and we have working memory. Long-term memory are the things that you remember from your childhood. It's the things that you remember from reading Charlotte's Web. It's your favorite movie. You have that stored in long-term memory. Short-term memory are the things that you, if I said, well, what did you do last Wednesday? You might remember and recall the events of last Wednesday. How did you do in your last bowling tournament? What was the last movie you saw? And tell me about it. That's short-term memory. Likely in a few years and months, those memories are going to have gone. And so short-term memory doesn't, we don't hold everything there. Things that are of value and important to us, we store into long-term memory. Working memory is immediate memory. It's information that you're dealing with right now. It's when I say, what's your phone number? That used to be a thing before we typed it into our iPhones or said, I'll call you and you can just save it under my contacts. It used to be a thing. We'd say, give me your phone number. And we'd say the phone number and the person would rehearse it and try and remember it. That's working memory. That's trying to hold it there in your current thoughts. In a few minutes, I will have forgotten it. Therefore, working memory has done its job. It's gone. I'm no longer using it. You use working memory in a restaurant, and the bill comes, and someone says at the table, how much do I owe you for the tip? Let's split it 50-50. And you're looking at the total on the bill, and in your head, you're doing that mental math of taking the bill, moving the decimal to show that so that it shows 10%, and then determining that the bill, you're going to double that amount, that's 20%. That's the total tip, and you split that in half. You each pay half. That process requires working memory. Another one I want to talk about is inhibition. Inhibition is that ability to not say something. It's the ability to quiet the voices that you don't shout out. When little kids go to a birthday party, you can clearly see they don't have inhibition. So the birthday child is unwrapping the presents, and what do you see the other kids at the party do? They all start to, especially the little ones, right, 3s and 4s, they grab at the present, they all try to unwrap it. That's a lack of inhibition. Moms and dads step in and say, no, wait, not your birthday. You have to wait for them to unwrap it. And that's a skill they learn over time. Warm cookies are on a counter. People walk into a room. Ooh, I'm going to grab one of those cookies. They look nice and warm. The person on the diet says, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. They are inhibiting their desire to pick up that cookie. So that's an executive function, a choice that they're making there. Okay, and those are the two that I really wanted to pay some special attention to, and I think the others are fairly self-explanatory. So let's proceed over here into the adult world. So beyond executive functioning, how else does our language continue to grow as an adult? Well, it's affected by a variety of things. Certainly, advanced education. You are all in a course at college learning new things and learning a new profession. Eventually, you'll move into a workplace, and that workplace too will have its own language opportunities. And then your own personal life experiences also will lend themselves to developing and expanding your understanding of language. So, advanced education, college, technical schools, particularly provide you with learning new vocabulary. You certainly have learned new vocabulary in this course. Um, and along with that, you may also learn acronyms. Our field in particular is filled with acronyms. We talk about things like IEP, Individual Education Program or Plan. We talk about SLI, Speech Language Impaired or Specific Language Impairment. We talk about LD, learning disability. So there's lots of acronyms that also go along with vocabulary, and the ability to use an acronym to represent a full vocabulary word is part of that advanced education. It's not enough to just learn the vocabulary or the vernacular. You also have to use it in context, because the point of going to an advanced education is so that you can get a workplace position. And in the workplace, they expect you not just to know the words, but how to use them. In order to be successful as an adult learner, we would expect that that person would be able to comprehend complex text. So the ability to take information, apply it, analyze it, synthesize it, should be in place in order to be a successful adult learner. Um, that we expect them to be able to apply the knowledge and apply it to performance, that they be skilled in social pragmatic language in order to work with a diverse set of people, because you're going to come into an environment where not everyone shares your learning or your background, and you might even be presented some novel learning situations in which you're going to have to demonstrate your use of social pragmatic language skills. The ability to store and retrieve key information is practiced here at the adult education level. And so over this period of time, you can see again why the young adult brain is developing and growing in these areas. Well, higher education isn't just for young adults either. Uniquely, it's also for older adults, middle age, and senior citizens, because what we do know, and we'll talk about this in a couple of slides coming up, is that learning new information allows the brain to continue to build new neurons. And the more you learn new information, the more healthy the brain stays. And so it actually is a great thing to have this thought of being a continuing learner, because it helps your brain stay healthy, and it expands your skills, knowledge, cognitively and linguistically. Once you get to the workplace, the adult learner will have to apply and synthesize the information that they've learned in the collegiate or trade school or post-school education. The expectation is that not only are you applying and synthesizing it, but you're solving problems and making decisions based off of the language that you've now learned how to use in this particular setting. And then life experiences. We each come with a unique set of life experiences. For those of you that have built a house with Habitat for Humanity, your experiences have given you vocabulary in the field of construction. If you've traveled, you have learned the social rules of other cultures and the impact of other languages on our own language, in addition to expanding your own vocabulary. And just even the life experience of parenthood gives you the vernacular of child development, with doctor's appointments and schools and PTAs and play groups and skill sets that your own child learns, your vocabulary and your language abilities. As you're teaching another child language, your ability to use and master language grows. Changes do happen as we age, and as I mentioned earlier, um, there are some things we can do to manage how our brains continue to age and continue to grow, and certainly learning new information is one of those things, but there are some natural processes of aging that do impact our language skills. Cognitive factors that do change as we get older are processing speed, inhibition, and working memory. As we get older, our ability to process information slows down. So, what that might mean is if an older person, let's say, was a victim of bank fraud, and they had to go to the bank to close accounts and open new accounts, um, they may have to listen to the bank manager explain how checks are going to have to wait to be cleared, that there's the process that the bank needs to do in order to complete the access of their account before they can close it. Then they're going to have to open up a new account. And this is a conversation that's going to go on for a few minutes, right? The older person may need that repeated or said more slowly, because their ability to process all that information at once is slower, much slower than what an adolescent might be able to do. Explain the new iPhone to a teenager, explain the new iPhone to someone who's 78, you can see the impact of processing speed. It's not cognitive ability, nor is it intellect or language competence. It is the ability of the brain to take the information in at the same rate. Inhibition also becomes more difficult as we get older. One of those executive functioning skills that starts to deteriorate. And a good example of this deterioration you often see in lines. You might see it in line at the grocery store, you might see it in line at the post office or a mall if you're standing in line at the register, and an older person at the post office turns to you and says, "I'm mailing a package to my son in Pittsburgh. He just got a cat, so I'm mailing him a book about cats and some collars for her. She's a tabby, and I warned him that she's going to cry a lot at night. I had a tabby once when it was 1962." So we wouldn't ordinarily start conversations of that in depth with a complete stranger. Our inhibition tells us not to, but an older individual has more difficulty ignoring um, um, irrelevant details. It has more difficulty shutting off when they shouldn't be sharing information. And so you may see that deterioration. Working memory, the capacity with which we can store information in the moment and deal with it, also deteriorates as we age. An example might be, I'm going to go back to the bank with an older person, and the manager says, "Okay, I need you to come up with a password for your account." And they're like, "Oh, I don't know what password to pick." "Oh, okay, I think I'll pick," and they pick four numbers. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. And they lean to their child next to them, their adult child, and say, "Okay, I'm going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4." And the adult child says, "Okay, that you should, that's fine. Go ahead and pick those numbers. But you shouldn't say it out loud because now the bank manager can hear you. You should pick something that's, quiet and just say it in your head." And "Okay, well, I'm going to pick the day that you were born." "Okay, that's fine." And they say, "Oh, well, no, I think I'm going to go back and pick the ones that I had before. What was those first ones I said?" And they don't remember. They're not able to hold all that information so that they can work with it in the moment. If I said, "Okay, you can open the safe with this combination, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the person would say, "Okay, I'm sorry, what was that again?" It's 1, 2, and they can't hold the information as they're trying to process it and act on it. And so just to repeat, what we do know is the taking on of new challenges, learning new things helps maintain brain function and actually helps neurons continue to grow, and the brain stays more healthy. Being able to be flexible, being willing and tolerant of change and learning new things also helps. Um, God bless those people who are my age trying to learn new languages. I can't imagine, though sometimes I feel like it'd be great to try and do something like that. Seeing older individuals learning things like Excel, learning Word, learning how to manage an iPhone, how to make a YouTube video. All of these things are just show a flexibility and a willingness to change and to learn, and that helps also keep brains healthy. What is not a natural process of aging are dementia and Alzheimer's. Those two are deterioration of cognitive functions, but they are not natural processes of aging. So I don't want you to get confused between those natural things that are occurring in a healthy cognitively functioning brain and then in someone who is showing signs of dementia or Alzheimer's, in which cognitive functioning has significantly deteriorated. So we've come to the end of the process of learning language, and you can see that this is a lifelong event. It starts at birth and it continues well into our older years, but we are always in the place of learning more things about how to learn language and how to manage our world, our very, very busy world of communication. Good night.